love a little bit of swords and sorcery. Personally, I'm a big fan of high fantasy, and I have been since about the 3rd grade. When I was in 4th grade, at first in 4th grade, I lived in South Dakota, and then my family had to move to Nebraska. And while we were moving and we were digging stuff out of our attic in South Dakota, I found my dad's old Advanced Dungeons and Dragons books. From there, I introduced Dungeons and Dragons to some of my new friends in Nebraska, and ever since about 4th grade, I've been playing D&D ever since. Tabletop role-playing games are probably at their highest popularity that they've ever been at right now. Personally, I think it would be a giant missed opportunity if a Dungeons and Dragons movie didn't come out soon. For a while, the idea of a new D&D movie has kind of been up in the air. At one point, they set a release date for 2021, and recently, yesterday, they announced that the original director that they had in mind left, and a pair of new directors have come in to kind of start from scratch again, and we're not sure whether the release date still stands. Consider this video to be a kind of a quick pitch on how I think they should do this D&D movie, and the potential that I think it has, and why I think it's such a great idea to make a D&D movie now in 2019. In the year 2000, a movie called Dungeons and Dragons did hit theaters. It was a commercial flop and it was reviewed terribly. It was received just extremely poorly. Somehow, it did well enough to have 2 straight-to-DVD sequels. I'm not sure how that happened. But if that movie didn't work then, why would a movie like it work now? Well, like I said earlier, D&D right now is at the most popular it's ever been. D&D Edition 3.5 and Pathfinder, which is kind of a spin-off of D&D but not created by Wizards of the Coast or TSR, are both still widely played right now, and Dungeons & Dragons 5th Edition is extremely popular among the fans. More and more celebrities are coming out about how, yeah, I play Dungeons & Dragons too. And D&D is proven to have a massive entertainment following by the sheer amount of podcasts and live streams and shows of people just playing the game. Obviously, some major examples would be Critical Role, The Adventure Zone, just most of the stuff Geek and Strundry does, but also, Glass Cannon. Critical Role just finished crowdfunding their own animated show based on their D&D podcast. The audience and the support is definitely there. And right now is kind of the perfect storm for a fantasy renaissance. Game of Thrones was obviously massively popular, and it just finished. And Amazon and Netflix have plenty of fantasy shows kind of in the works right now. Amazon is doing their Lord of the Rings prequel series, and it's already been confirmed for like 4 seasons. Netflix just released the trailer for their The Witcher show based on the Witcher books, and I guess probably kind of the video games, but Amazon also has a Wheel of Time live action show in development right now. The Shannara Chronicles on MTV was really popular for the 1st season. Now the 2nd season kind of fizzled out because it was on Paramount Network. And that channel was kind of just in a rebranding phase, and it didn't work out too well. But still, I think all of these things just create this atmosphere that is ripe for a new fantasy movie to come out and make its mark. So I think if they did make a D&D movie now, it would have to be based on some sort of like an adaptation of some sort of pre-existing storyline. In Dungeons and Dragons, you have a ton of resources for kind of adapting a storyline. You literally have 30 or 40 years worth of dungeon modules and campaigns that were created for Dungeons and Dragons. But actually, I think that would be the weaker option. I think the better option for adapting a story would be, there's a ton of D&D novels. You have the Dragonlance Chronicles, you have the Legends of Drizzt, you have a whole bunch of even just standalone kind of spin-off Forgotten Realms one-shot books. Just these pre-existing stories with these already established and developed characters that are, I wouldn't say easy, but that would be not terribly difficult to adapt into a movie format. And when you have things like a series, like Pathfinder Chronicles, The Legend of Drizzt, you have potential for movie sequels. And I feel like you have a lot of celebrities that'd be willing to work on this project and promote this project. Like I said earlier, there are a ton of celebrities that have started to come out of the woodwork and say, oh yeah, I played D&D when I was a kid. Oh yeah, I played D&D. And you just have, I think, even if you don't have all of them working on the movie, I think you have a lot of celebrities that would still be willing to promote the movie. I think Game of Thrones ending kind of leaves a gap that kind of should be filled. I think could be filled easily by a D&D show or movie. And finally, I think the high fantasy movie show world needs something fresh, needs something new. We've already seen Lord of the Rings, we've already seen The Hobbit. Lord of the Rings prequel series, it's not new. We've already seen Game of Thrones. We don't need a Game of Thrones prequel series. We need something different. And I think the wealth of lore and stories that we have inside of D&D provides that. I know none of the people who are working on this new D&D movie are watching this video, but those are just my thoughts that I've had in my head for a while about why I think they really need to do this movie and what I hope they do with it. Anyway, before you go, I was talking about D&D podcasts earlier, and right now one of my favorites that I'm listening to is called Die by the Sword podcast. It's very, very good, and I would highly recommend for you to listen to it if you're any kind of interested in D&D. It's actually a Pathfinder run campaign, but it's really, really fun, and they just got started like last month. So also, I, along with several of my friends, are starting our own D&D podcast. It is called the Party Imbalance Podcast, and it is a Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition real play campaign with 5 players and 1 DM, obviously. And we're kind of having our sessions over Discord, and we're recording it and adding, sound effects and music and such. If you're at all interested in listening to it, check it out on iTunes and on Podbean, and I believe I'll have it on Google Play as well. The episodes will also be on YouTube, and that'll be under the YouTube channel at just Party Imbalance, I believe. Who knows, maybe I'll end up making a D&D movie and just base it off of our podcast campaign. We'll see. All right, thank you for watching. See ya.